Yesterday, the federal government issued its economic plan in the afternoon. We carried it here live on CP24 because they're hoping not only to let people know what's going on, but also to try to divert attention away from the woes of the Minister of Finance. We're joined now by Aaron Wudrick, who's with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. He's in Ottawa. And Aaron, one of the big things that your organization put out, and also that people are talking about, is that while the minister is saying the economy is in better shape than they otherwise would have thought, they're taking all that money and keeping the spending it as opposed to paying down the deficit. And when asked, he said, I have no plan to ever pay down the deficit. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, Stephen, I think it's very problematic considering this government was quite clear when it ran for office. It was going to have three what it called modest deficits of $10 billion or less for 3 years, then right back to balance. Yeah. Of course, that hasn't been the reality. They've run really big deficits since, and having no plan whatsoever to get back to balance is certainly very disconcerting from a taxpayer standpoint.
So why is it disconcerting? I mean, some people are saying, well, things are terrific right now. It's sunny days, and everybody is just bouncing along, lots of jobs, therefore lots of taxpayers, lots of money going into Ottawa coffers, so keep on spending. What's the matter with not having a plan to bring down the deficit? What's the matter with keep having billions of dollars of a deficit?
Well, there's a couple of problems. I mean, first of all is the money has to be paid back. This is borrowed money. It goes on the shoulders of our kids and our grandkids who have to pay it back in the form of interest down the road.
What about leaving it for a generation or two? What about leaving that money out there and still pay interest on it?
Well, look, the reality is it has to be paid eventually. And to give you a sense of how much we pay already, we spend more money on interest right now than we do on the Canadian Armed Forces. That is a lot of money that we could spend on other things. So it's important to live within your means. Most Canadians understand this intuitively. And yet this government, which previously said it had to spend because times were bad, has now changed its argument. Now times are good and they're going to spend because they want to. So I think that's a dangerous cycle we get into where we're always chasing our tail and the debt piles up. Governments don't care because it means good headlines for them today, but it means a burden on Canadians in the future.
So do you think Canadians are hearing your story? Do you think they care? Because I know that, for instance, just go back in ancient history, when Mr. Mulroney came in 1984, he was trying to attack the deficit and the debt, and nobody would have anything to do with it. It took a number of more years before people in Canada started paying attention to it.
Look, I do think that some people have some tolerance for some deficits. It's fair to say that. But I do think that most people would agree you can't run big ones, and you can't run them forever, especially in the good times. The point of running deficits, the argument goes, is that you need to in the bad times to boost the economy. The economy is doing well. They should be saving up. There are storm clouds ahead. NAFTA could go sideways. There's all kinds of things that go wrong. They need to be looking forward and preparing for that rather than sort of blowing the bank today.
So, Aaron, would you be satisfied if the minister had stood up yesterday and said, we've got billions coming in, so we're going to spend it on the tax, child tax credit, we're going to spend it on the Coast Guard, but here's a plan that we're going to put into place starting in a year from now of gradually paying down that deficit. Would that be a good plan according to you?
I think having a plan to get back to balance would certainly be number one, so that would be good. And with respect to the things they've spent money on, look, there's no question they've spent on some good things, some important things, but governing is about making choices, Stephen. They chose to give money to groups like Bombardier. That would have more than paid for the child care benefit boost, for example. They have to make decisions. They can't give money to everyone. They should spend it on the high priorities, like low-income children, and stop giving it away in things like corporate welfare.
Would you support the government coming forth and giving more money to Toronto for more subways?
That's a separate discussion. I know I've certainly spent enough time in Toronto to know you certainly have some transit woes there, and I know that there needs to be a fix.
Okay, Aaron, thank you very much. Good chatting with you as always. We'll do it again soon. Thanks very much.